Frank Howard of Clemson knows there's a price to pay when you lose to that big rivalry, like in today's Battle of South Carolina with the Gamecocks. It's true today as it was in the 40s, 50s, and 60s when Howard succeeded on the field at Clemson, and he revolutionized the support of the game off the field. Beano Cook visits the living Rock of Death Valley, who lives as he coached, by the rules.
I always believed in the golden rule. That is, do unto others as you'd have others do unto you. And I believe if people do things like that, they'll enjoy themselves a lot more.
Frank Howard's philosophy is nothing new, but there's a lesson to be learned from this coach's career, whether you follow college football or not. After playing at Alabama, Frank Howard came to Clemson in 1931 to coach football and track, although he never saw a track meet until he got there. 2 years later, with no athletic scholarships to attract athletes, Frank Howard took matters into his own hands. He set out to raise $10,000 with the slogan, "I pay 10 a year." The first college booster club was born.
We call it Iptay. Those Gamecock people call it I plow 10 acres yelly. But now that Iptay is developed into a real big thing. In fact, it's the best booster club in the United States.
In 1940, he was elected head football coach. He seconded his own nomination. He became one of the nation's most successful coaches. Cotton Bowls, Orange Bowls, Sugar Bowls. In the process of winning them all, the country gentleman learned a lot about human nature, like playing with little hurts.
I had a boy named Charlie Moss, and things was tough. He came in one day, he says, "Coach, if you rub my shoulder with Absol-Beam Jr., it'll cure it." I said, "Boy, you know we hadn't got any Absol-Beam Jr." He said, "Well, they sell it down to the drugstore." So I went down to the drugstore and bought a 10-cent bottle. I came back and pulled a stopper out of it, let him smell it good. Then I rubbed his shoulder with hot water. He got up and he said, "Ooh, ooh, nothing like that Absol-Beam Jr." Then you know what I did, Beano? I put that stopper back in, went back to the drugstore and got my dime back.
When he retired from the field following the '69 season, he was only one of 5 active coaches with over 150 victories. His name would never be forgotten. 80,000 people are reminded every time they look at the scoreboard. And at the other end of the place they call Death Valley sits one of the greatest traditions in college football.
Coach, the Rock. How did that start, the tradition? Where did you come up with that crazy idea?
Well, there's a funny thing about that rock. You know, a fella named Jones was traveling out in Death Valley, and he brought me this rock, and it sat around my office for about 3 years. I told Gene Williman, I said, "Gene, take this rock and throw it over in the valley." I thought he was just going to pitch it over the fence. So he went out there and built this thing like a little fountain, and I saw it. I said, "Well, I'll have some fun out of this thing." So I told those players, I said, "Now, all of it is going to give me 110%. You can rub my rock." I said, "If you're not going to give me 110%, keep your filthy hands off my rock."
He expects 110% because that's what he gives. The golden rule, remember? And he's still not ready to kiss the game goodbye.
That's what makes college football great. People like Frank Howard.
And great programs that people like that are involved in. Clemson, certainly one of the top programs in the nation, and you think they might win it all next year.
That's the early pick, early.
We'll wait and see.